Hey everyone, welcome to an impromptu recording of a review of the Legacy Challenge that happened yesterday, where I wanted to start prepping for the showcase on Saturday and also this season's Legacy Showcase, since there isn't any Vintage and Legacy is probably the only format that I would be interested in competing. And so I hastily put together this list based on what Matt got a finals in the 90s MPG Open in New York. You can see the full bot recording on Twitch if you're a subscriber, or on the YouTube membership for the 90s MPG channel. I'm gonna link that in the description. But basically what Matt was doing in that was trying to abuse flow state in a Jeskai Control shell by using Monastery Mentor as the engine. So basically the idea is that the format is a little too quick, but also because there's gonna be a bit of a shakeup with flow state, it's kind of difficult to be a full control deck when you don't know what the meta is going to look like. And so based on that, we don't see the classic just Jeskai, purely Jeskai Control. You don't see any Narsets, no dress downs, no Supreme Verdicts either. We still maintain this 4 Theorlingas, although to be honest, it's possible that it can be cut altogether. And we've been thinking about, these 2 red cards may not be enough for the main deck to justify red, and you're just basically keeping it because of Pyroblast and being so good. Ruination is very good in our meta because there's a lot of lands decks, but realistically, it might also be able to be cut. So we'll see how this evolves. But basically, this is a little bit more of a grounded version of Jeskai. You are playing 4 flow states to continue to draw cards instead of the Narset, so this come 1 turn earlier. They dig you a lot less deeper, but they do get you more cards, generally. And just overall, you want to try to drop a Mentor and start putting more of these. 2 minor missteps were my choice because I am only trying to fight the Tamios and Thoughtseize and stuff like that, more so than anything else. I feel like the deck can pop off if you survive the early turn, so we put a lot of pressure on the early game. This is also an online meta, so I expect a lot more Tamios and Thoughtseizes and that sort of stuff. Prismari Charm has been an interesting one for us, so every mode here is sufficient. You wouldn't play this card just for 1 mode only, but the flexibility gives it enough range that we've been trying 1 or 2 for now. Both the Surveils are good because they enable your flow states and can dig you out of the wasteland, of the brainstorm. 1 damage to each of 2 targets can be good to clear the Bowmasters without having to drop a higher level removal spell like Plowshares. And also the bounce of the permanent on end step has been okay against some decks. 3 Tamios just to accommodate, and I think this island should be a Survey land. I'm still not convinced that even with flow state we want to play Mystic Sanctuary, but a Survey land here would probably be okay. From the sideboard, the most, thing that stands out was 2 Humilities. I really like this card, especially when Show and Tell is a pretty hard matchup for us to beat. A little less so now that we have a relatively early clock. But still, 2 Humilities help against the Alluren decks, helps against the Sneak&Show decks, and just gives you some insurance against very fast hands. These Deafening Silence and Monastery Mentor, I didn't know how to put the second one in, and probably I should just put it instead of like a Wrath or something, or maybe even this command. And then this Hydroblast, we might want a second one because of blue-red being more prevalent. And this Null Rod I put just because of like the Mystic Forge decks, but we haven't seen that many. And with 3 Consigned to Memories, it's maybe okay. But we only play 1 Force of Negation, and there is no Narset to cover the ring. So that can get out of hand relatively quickly, so I'm still okay with just playing 1 Null Rod. Anyway, we're gonna go over some of the videos from the recording. Now, this challenge was a little strange because in the middle of it, twice, I had to leave my computer. So one of the matches I had to just concede because I had to leave. And then in the top 8, I had to keep going back and forth between my computer and going downstairs. So you'll see me do a lot of mistakes, and in fact, that probably ends up costing me the game. But let's get to it. So match 1 is against blue-red tempo. At this point, I keep this hand on the draw, being relatively safe with force pitching Lorien. We have Prismatic ending for the Tamiyo or for the DRC, and if we're playing a longer game, we are relatively set up with lands and stuff. So at this point, I'm thinking that this might be blue-white until I see the bubble, in which case I'm okay, this is definitely just Delver. Maybe blue-black, but what I'm for sure convinced is that there is no Stifle, and so I just fetch immediately. Our opponent fetches as well. And here I'm just very happy to just wait, and my goal just here is to answer their threats one for one until I can just pull ahead or drop a mentor with a couple of my answers. Here I'm gonna force pitching Lorien because I already have the lands, and I wanna, if we get into a fight, at least I wanna deny the first token. DRC that I'm going to let happen, and the idea here is that this misstep is a little more useful later on for brainstorm spawnders and stuff like that, and already having the Prismatic ending. But here I'm just gonna drop this back to basics since I just drew it and I can play it around days. If my opponent has a Force of Will, I just let it happen, Prismatic ending the DRC, and we are more or less stable. But yeah, here they just concede, they had a very slow start, and so we just move on. So outgo all the forces because we don't want to play 2 for 1s, and they also play Pyroblast, Incom, Pyroblast, Hydroblast, and Monastery Mentor. Pretty clean cut. There is a thought of maybe back to basics you can cut as well, but I kind of like keeping it, and I don't really like playing forces here. So our opening was it's definitely fine, and here I had a problem because I didn't adapt my mapping. I should definitely just be fetching Island with the Scalding Tarn because the Flooded Strand would give me the stable white mana, but I had it in my mind that I was playing the Flooded Strand first, and so it goes. We got Pyroblasted and Core Steel Cutter without bubbles, so that gives us a lot of time, especially because now we have Hydroblast that we can play around Pyroblast. And so that resolves. And here we're sort of paying for the mistakes, but with Upside Wasteland, I want to make sure that at least as many of my lands as possible stay up. So yeah, generally I would have been much happier having my planes there, but it is what it is. Another Core Steel Cutter without follow-up, which is a surprising amount of time for us. So yeah, I'm just gonna make my Tamiyo, but I do want to get rid of this cutter, or at least trade a force, so that if it is a blue card, my opponent has a lot less cards to trigger the steel cutter later. And so here we got the start of kind of like the, our opponent is starting to get cards. Flow State is going to accrue them power because they got their sorcery with Ponder. And so here we are a little bit in trouble already. Wrath of the Skies is a good insurance for later, but I don't want to jam this in 2 days, and also my Tamiyo is going to die. I'm also pretty interested in getting these clues in. And so, yeah, just this Plow to gain time, because I feel like if I get out of this, it's pretty good for me. But also, again, I don't want to Wrath because I'm going to lose my Tamiyo, and I think I can absorb a lot of damage. But the second Flow State puts us a little bit behind, especially after Brainstorm follow-up. Opponent drops on a Wasteland, which means that it's going to be a little difficult for me to establish my white mana again. But we just go Brainstorm in response, and here we are locked, and so I'm just putting all the cards that I can cast on the bottom, and getting up for just like a drawn-out fight where I need to start pushing a lot of my opponent's threats and just like trading aggressively, sort of. Here I am saving the minor misstep on the Darcy because I'm expecting a Pyroblast on this Tamiyo, which indeed happens. And so I'm just gonna Pyroblast that. Sorry, minor misstep the Pyroblast. Let them survey, let them put a token and stuff. Here my opponent gets a little aggressive and I play it wrong. So this equip on the Darcy, I should let resolve and then Plow, because then they would not have enough mana for re-equipping on the Monk token, and so my Tamiyo only gets hit for 1. Whereas now, if I'm getting dazed, I'm getting dazed anyway, but if I succeed, at least I'm saving 1 damage on the Tamiyo, which is also important because instead of having 2, it will go to 3. And at 3, I can just buy back the pending and get rid of the Core Steel Cutter, which means that I only need to worry about 2 Monk tokens, which also means that I can play my Wrath of the Skies for 0 instead of for 2. So all in all, pretty bad sequencing here for me. Our Tamiyo takes 2 damage. And so here's where it comes, right? Like, I could have gotten back my Prismatic Ending and gotten the Core Steel Cutter out of the way. Yes, I lose a Tamiyo, but I'm absorbing damage. So our opponent does nothing and just attacks. And then plays Darcy, which I thought this was just incorrect. Because you wanted to, if we are fighting, you want to fight on before the upkeep. So that you trigger prowess, you trigger the counters. So here I misstep, my opponent force of negation. So yeah, they lose quite a lot of damage, actually. 3 damage on the Tamiyo, I think. So 1 prowess, 1 or 2 damage, yeah. So they still establish the Darcy, and here I'm just gonna draw to try and like accelerate the rate at which I'm getting through the brainstorm. And so pop the last clue, I get a land, which is not a white land, but it's still, you know, we're getting there. I'm gonna try and see if I can get my Tamiyo to at least not die. And here they just attack with 1, which again I think is incorrect because I don't know what's in their hand. But if we get on a force fight, let's say, those monk tokens should be attacking. Regardless, I'm not spending resources. I just wanna, as much as possible, get this Tamiyo out of the way. It is possible that here I could take Prismari Charm and just surveil, brainstorm, and plow to the graveyard and draw again, just to clear. But it's, in my mind, it's like that's basically the same as just shuffling this ponder, and I could maybe spike my white, and so I just shuffle here. Prismatic Ending, which I am trying to cast and hold up plow, but it's not possible. And so ultimately I just decide to get rid of the cutter, I believe. Yeah. So get rid of the cutter, which means that in my mind, I'm like, okay, I can wrath for 1 now and still be fine. Flow state is very dangerous. 3rd flow state of the game. My opponent is very, like 6 cards deeper than I am. Another wasteland, which is not important. And here the Tamiyo just dies. So it has absorbed basically, like, I don't even know, so much damage that it's given me the time to just get out of the brainstorm lock. And here I draw my white. So no question, just slam the wrath. If they have a force, I can have the next one follow up, but they don't. And here I'm just thinking like, for Theolingas maybe, but it's a very bad idea to for Theolingas with less than 3 mana usually, especially in a deck where there's Core Steel Cutters and all of that stuff. So I'm just gonna hold for now. I think this favors me. I have enough removal with Snapcaster Plow to at least get a couple more draws. And our opponent is just like, you know, not doing much, which is good for me. I think that this new blue-red tempo deck is a little strange because it has a lot more air than usual. It doesn't play that many threads. I think it's like 10 threads between 4 Darcies, 3 cutters, 4 cutters and 2 Murktides. And here I just land for Theolingas for 2. Idea being, you know, I want to see what happens. My opponent has 5 cards, so I'm just like, you have to have some stuff. So if I can get like a Hydro or a Force or whatever, just try to make something happen. If I get my 4th, I at least get my Plow and I can start, you know, contesting the board a little. But yeah, it was mostly bait. I wasn't expecting it to resolve, but I at least didn't want it to get just pondered. And here I'm thinking, I'm just playing Monastery Mentor, but I'm like, it's just gonna get clapped by Bolt. I don't have mana to snap and misstep. And so ultimately I sat against it. I'm like, no need. I also don't want to plow my own mentor so that I get a token, so that's just fine. I'm just chilling. My opponent has to present threats. I've already gotten rid of 4 of their 10 threats, so relatively fine. And here with the Pyro, I think it's okay because here I can just Pyroblast something in response and plow. That's enough. That's 2 tokens, so I think it's fine. Also, my opponent is representing Force, so, or was representing Force, and so no need to play into it. And my opponent Murktides here. I'm just fine to let it resolve, and the reason is that I want to get into a fight on my end step. So here I'm just gonna plow the Murktide, opponent forces, and here I'm just gonna Pyroblast the Murktide as well, because ultimately if I get 2 tokens and I have a Snapcaster, that's sufficient. And also, like, if I lose this fight, I don't really care because I have a Snap again. They would need Pyroblast for the Snapcaster. So yeah, here they dazed the Plow. I think they thought that I was just Pyroblasting the Force of Will, but I am Pyroblasting the Murktide. And so kind of like a online play only, but they end up losing everything. And so here I just Ponder, and Ponder is basically just enough for them to throw the towel. And so next match, we're playing against, I believe, Colorless. So this hand was alright. For me, I had, okay, just turn 1 Ponder that I think doesn't seem much interesting. Let's see what I see with this Ponder, sorry. Yeah, just lands and cantrips, which is fine-ish. I'm not super happy about it, but, you know, I want to play... Basically, my next turn that I'm thinking here is, like, if it's Colorless, I just brainstorm pending, like, a key or a candelabra or something, set up for 2 flow states, and from there, we'll see where we end. So, opponent goes to 1 candelabra, which is basically what we were expecting. So, just here, I'm going to brainstorm fetch, Prismari ending, and see what we get. Ideally, I'm getting I'm looking for a force. If I get it, I don't think we get there. Yeah, just timing, just pretty bad cards, honestly, right now. I'm even considering if I wanna ponder trying to get a force here, but I'm like, okay, like Prismatic Ending should be okay to slow them down, but nope. We get a Karn from Liquid Metal Coating, and so here I'm just like, I really need the force, and I whiff. It's possible that I should get 2 lands here because the Prismatic Ending is not that good against Liquid Metal Coating when Karn is in play, because Karn can pull it from the exile. And yeah, here, not only Liquid Metal Coating, but also Trinisphere. And so now here I have to think, right? Again, as I discussed, the Prismatic Ending on the Liquid Metal Coating doesn't do anything. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe back to basics. They get rid of one of my lands, and then I don't know, draw something. It's kind of like tenuous. I just don't think that I am winning if my opponent has that much more mana than I have. And so back to basics, and then maybe pray that I get they go for my blue, and then I draw my white, and I can like do something. But it's very difficult. I'm not playing a road here, which is like one of the reasons to play it. White tower is in, you know, I'm trying to just see if I can get something going, but again, because they can pull up the Liquid Metal even if I exile it, and my white tower is under my back to basics, I'm just never getting back here. Mostly because you need to be ahead by 1 land at least to get out of this lock. My opponent very correctly gets my island on the upkeep so that I cannot tap it, and so now I'm never going to be able to get ahead in mana until I get a fetch maybe, and I draw nothing. So I'm just like deciding to move on because my sideboard is relatively good against the deck. So here we just like we get in Consigns, No Rod, Ruination, and Massive Inventory. I'm getting rid of the plows. I believe it's also going to be like Ponder and Misstep or something like that. Misstep on the play is alright. On the draw, I'm going to get rid of it. And so here there was this thought for me, and I think that I played this incorrectly, where I'm like, okay, they have so much mana that I need to, that I don't get the first monolith, right? However, I should have identified that because I am going to draw my mountain, get island, and play back to basics. My opponent would be on 3 cards, just on the monolith, sorry, and then it's a little harder for them to get out. Even here, I think I should. The only thing that I'm afraid is just that another tower or another Urza land gets them Ugin, which deletes the back to basics. But I should have identified that here. The first monolith is maybe correct to not. The second one, this is just incorrect. Like here, I should just have consigned, because then my opponent just has 3 lands, and that's fine. Drop or even fetch here for, no, because I need the colors. Just fetch, drop the back to basics, and then see if we can get to the ferry with the thing. But I played incorrectly, and now we are just too behind to do it. Again, because of the threat of Ugin. So I lose my position because I wasn't paying that much attention. My opponent has infinite mana, basically. Our Brainstorm doesn't get us anywhere. We shuffle away our card. And then here, just up at the ferry, my opponent K commands, I consign it, and then I just bounce a monolith, draw, and it's something that's not relevant. Again, I don't want to force of negation anything here, because this back to basics is where I'm trying to go, because here I could be like, okay, well, I can just drop back to basics plus into ferry and then get rid of these monoliths eventually. or the manifold keys even. So here my opponent just plays taps, gets workshop, and then drops Emrakul, and it's over. So just the slight misplay just gives them enough leeway to get there. With this hand, we probably can win this game if we play this sequence correctly, because then after dropping the Teferi, the next turn we have enough to also like hold up for maybe not, but they would be like very tapped out. This is out, so it's TBD. I don't know what's in their hand, obviously, so there's a lot of stuff going on, but that was probably a very badly played by me. So yeah, this is our first loss and our only quote-unquote correct, like actual loss in the run. And so here, round 3 against my opponent, who plays Alluren and Eldrazi. And so I think this hand is acceptable against both. If it's Eldrazi, I have Prismatic Ending for the Chalice, which unlocks my 2 plows, and I also am dropping a Tamiyo. I'm playing on basics, so I'm pretty happy with that. If it's Alluren, it's a little more complicated, but because we have 2 plows, we can still fight through it, or we have a chance to fight through it. I'm gonna see. Okay, so I play up, and I don't play the Tamiyo immediately because, again, if they are Alluren and they go on like a very fast Alluren, I die pretty quickly. Maybe it's a little too extreme, but I want to be able to be like, if they show and tell the Alluren or the Omniscience, I want to be able to put in my Flooded Strand, fetch 2 white sources, and plow twice. So play Get Patient here. Now I'm going to play this Tamiyo, which is a little risky and counter to what I was saying, but at the same time, I just need to do something. And also because I wasn't sure at this point if they were playing maybe blue-white. Here, Hedgemaze definitely makes it Alluren or Omnitel. And so draw, get my land perfect. And now here, my plan is just to attack, make clues, draw, and just wait for them to come to me. Another Surveil, Omniscience to the graveyard, which to me says they're either looking for lands or they already have an Omniscience. And so that's fine. Ancient Tomb, Petal, pass. I thought we were fighting, but we're not. And so just get more lands. Crack Clue, get another fetch, and just keep going. Brainstorm from my opponent. And I think here is where they're just going to start show and telling. Oop. Yeah. Also didn't flow state because, again, I want to be able to hold up double plow and maybe even draw. Just flow state feels a little sad, and we're going to get into a fight at some point. So I'm like, okay, if I get into a fight, I also want to refuel. So I try to spike a force, I don't, and so I just put in Mentor. And here I put Mentor because realistically, like, the bad thing here would be Emrakul, right? Or, sorry, Omniscience into Emrakul, which, you know, can happen. But Caracas doesn't stop that. If it's just Emrakul, I can just drop the Caracas. And so ultimately, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to play Mentor so that if we get into this plow fight, I have more stuff to do. It's possible that I could think about not putting it because I can play Monastery Mentor through Alluren. But I'm like, if they put an Omniscience in the graveyard, they might have another one. So I need to put this Mentor into play just so that I can also apply pressure, right? My opponent had to show and tell something, so I'm thinking, okay, they have like the Omniscience, a Serac, or Alluren and a Serac, maybe 2 Seracs. So we'll see. Also, again, Caracas doesn't work with a Serac against this deck, and so we'll see. Opponent plays a Serac, and here I'm just gonna fetch. Force, I pitch, I fetch again, I get another force in, get the Serac, and luckily my opponent doesn't have a follow-up. And so we continue. Because in my head I was like, this feels like a lot of mana. Maybe they're just playing around like Pierce, or they have a Veil of Summer. And so here I'm just gonna Prismatic Ending a Petal just to trigger Prowess, and also conveniently putting a sorcery in my graveyard so that I can flow state. My opponent is gonna take this to just make a Veil of Summer and cycle because they scryed with the Cave Entrance the card to the top. I get Force Blue card just to try to do something. Brainstorm here, keep another Force. And have Swords to Plowshares so that I am pretty sure that I have them. Unless they have like stock up, double stock up or something like that, I can probably get there. 8, and so yeah. Here, our opponent doesn't draw anything and they lie. So, Humilities, which are just for this matchup, and so Humilities come in. Out comes Wrath of the Skies, a couple Scalding Tarns, and a Ponder, I think, and Prismari Charm. Prismari Charm, I think I could keep in just because it's fine against Omniscience. In response to the first trigger of the Acererak, I just bounce it, but yeah. It's alright. So on the draw, and we draw Humility, which I love. And here, my goal is just going to be to try and flip this Tamiyo as soon as possible. Just because if the Humility drops, I still need to not die. And so my opponent stocks up. Just play land. Brainstorm just to flip immediately. I already have a land drop and a Ponder to shuffle after. So we got 2 forces. Just get it there, and I'm just keeping the Prismatic Ending on top in case my opponent goes Carpet. If they don't go Carpet, then I'm just gonna shuffle it away. Yeah, and the opponent show and tells, and here I'm just gonna drop the Humility. They drop Alluren, and they spend a couple of minutes to think. So, opponent spends a couple of minutes thinking. I was looking at their deck list. I think the only out they had was maybe Boseiju and or Nature's Claim. But yeah, with like a Tamiyo ticking up and Humility, I feel like their hand is just counter spells and maybe like a Acererak. And so that's not going to cut it, and they scoop. So the next one is against this player that is on Stoneforge. So I have the fetch immediately, so not playing around. I'm just gonna establish my mana. I got my misstep for the Tamiyo or the Ponder or whatever. I'm gonna aggressively fire this misstep because I want to be able to try to enable my flows as soon as possible. Because my hand isn't that great. It's very reactive early, but it's not doing that much. Land Pass to me is just signaling a Stifle, especially because they are not fetching. Wasteland 2, and so here I'm just gonna Brainstorm. Opponent is going to try to do the trick with Daze, I believe, and so here I just fetch, they peer, they stifle me, I let it happen, no Daze, and so that's fine. And here I'm like, okay, well, if you're that deck, I'm probably just fine with kicking more lands. Lorien, so that I can put not only get more basics so that my Lorien doesn't get stifled, but also put the sorcery in the graveyard, so now I have it for flow state, and I have misstep for something, which I do. Days on misstep, which I'm fine with. And the land, and so here flow state, see what we get. Land snap is perfectly reasonable. We need to just get more and more mana. Our opponent wasted 2 cards to get rid of 1 of ours, and so we're like relatively okay. Cryptic Code, which is pretty difficult for me to beat, but I get an opening here. And so I don't think I played this correctly, because what I should be doing is just a Prismatic Ending with a Plains and Island in case that my opponent counters it, and then I can just go again with the Scalding Tarn. But I fetch first for Mountain, which basically just locks me into doing the Prismatic Ending play, and if my opponent had a force here, I'd be in a little bit of trouble. So they drop the Code, and that's fine. And here I make a classic mistake because I haven't played against Code for a while. I make 2 mistakes with it. First is Incoming, where my opponent is going to force, I let it happen, and here I try to Prismatic Ending the Cloaked thing, forgetting that it has Ward, and in which case I just throw away my card. No Wasteland to punish yet. Opponent drops Quantum Brittler, and I have my misstep for the Consign or the Stifle. I get rid of the Tamiyo, which I'm not sure is correct, because I haven't seen a land drop yet, I don't think. So if my opponent has land drop Stifle, it's pretty bad for me. But they don't, and so here we keep playing. I just 4th Lingus here because I see an opening. They missed the land drop. Their hand might just be all like plows and stuff, but I need to get in. 2 is too little, and so it's just like all in. If they get it, then I at least get another card out of them. I make them go a little further away from the Quantum Brittler. So yeah, just like I don't see this game going well for me if I don't get back into it, and so just establishing the 4th, which resolves in just attack. No point in waiting because this creature can't be blocked, although I still forget at this point that this creature can't be blocked. But I hit them for 6, they hit me for 3, so the advantage is on my side. I draw Forces Wheels, which I'm also going to aggressively use. So they take the Monarch. They play Tamiyo, which I have an answer with Snapcaster, so I don't care about that. Play that, and also here I'm just like, okay, well, I'm still winning this race. I'm hitting you for 4, you're hitting me for 3, and so, you know, go here. opponent plows one of my dudes after blocking. I play Snapcaster Mage. My opponent, I think, is going to stifle the trigger. They do. So I just let it happen, force the plow so that I get more damage in, and I still get it. So here I make another misplay because I forget that this creature cannot be blocked. I still don't remember that this is the case. I'm thinking, oh, sure, I just plow in response, whatever. I just let it happen. And here they attack me. And on attackers is where I should just be plowing. I should plow here. I try to go to blocks and I can't. And so here I plow, pay for the ward. My opponent is going to bounce the code and pitch it to Force of Will. And now because it's already blockers, past blockers, I cannot block it again. So that was a big misplay on my side. Opponent draws. I just draw Caracas, which I am thinking if I should bounce it or not, because I don't want to get stifled and then get rid of. So generally for me, I'm like, okay, I have lethal already, so let's just go. And I'm okay getting on this fight here. I also don't want to get them another force, but I think it's just fine. It was fine to plow. My opponent does a very strange play, which is plow their own thing. Where I think that they should just plow mine. It's the same effect, but they leave a creature on their board. And the creature that was turned was Stoneforge. Here I draw my card, bounce the Tamiyo, so that there's no like equip anything. That like if they had like Lion Sash, for example, Lion Sash reconfigure takes the monarchy back, although it was pretty rough for them. So all the blue cards. Sorry. I bring the Paralyze and the Mentor. I'm thinking I'd consign to memory because of the Stoneforge Mystic and Humilities as well. It's like kind of difficult. Humility is actually not that incredible because they can get ahead with the Cryptic Code. And so eventually I just cut a force and keep a consign, and then because I also haven't seen Felia yet. So I'm like, is it just like a weird Stoneforge? If it's Felia, consigns are better just to consign the return triggers for them. But overall, I just end up with this draw. It's possible that Wrath of the Skies is this one I should keep. And this hand is alright, but really needs this white mana to start popping. So starting with a Ponder, that looks alright. I want to probably have this force, but I don't want to do it right now. It's more like a force on next end step or next turn. So here. And here I'm just going to fetch, and we're going to get into a fight for this Stifle. Pitching Brainstorm, which I don't know if it's correct. And the reason why I don't think it's correct is because now, if, like, I could get locked, but the problem is that if this resolves for them, which it's going to resolve, I am vulnerable to days on this flow state, which I'm going to flow state, and they are going to Felia, and this resolves. But I'm still very like struggling for white. Like one white source, and this game is probably over for my opponent. They are on one card in hand, and I have 4 removal spells now in my hand. However, that doesn't work for me. Opponent gets a Stoneforge, which is a very good target to blink. Gets Cryptic Code and Batterskull, I think. I still feel like at this point I would just be getting, what's his name? I'd be getting Meteor Sword. But from this position, it's just too difficult, I think. It's probably an early scoop for me. Opponent flow stage draws and doesn't find anything. I think my goal there was just to plow first, then flow state. Because they have 1 extra card, they could force, whatever. I don't get much more. I think I just here I plow, but like I feel like the code is gonna be too much, and also because my fetch was not a white source exactly. Yeah, I just scoop early and decide to move on later. Trying to bring it back to basics because opponent was not playing around it like at all. If you see their mana base. Oh no, actually they were, so I was just not paying attention. This back to basics should stay out and flow state should stay in. And in fact, I think it's even possible that Null Rod is okay, just to stop them from bouncing the Batterskull and the flow state. TBD, honestly. But yeah, anyway. So my hand is pretty good. I have all of my mana. This Paralyze will come online eventually, but I don't have to worry about the Stifles, which basically won the game for my opponent last game. And so here I just want to establish my mana. Tamiyo, it's fine. I'm going to Brainstorm. keep a couple cards. Here I make a play that I don't think I'm convinced, because here I'm just gonna grab my mountain. I'm gonna trade 2 cards for this Tamiyo. When I had this Caracas to control it, I don't think it was necessary. My opponent goes Tamiyo again, and somehow, well, if we're playing that, flow state, and then Caracas the Tamiyo. So right now I'm just getting answers for the Tamiyo because I know that's basically all that my opponent has going on for them, and so I know we're gonna fight for this a lot. Because I have like basically 2 answers and defense, I'm just letting this Tamiyo flip. I mean, I could just maybe try to force a ponder. That's just not where I want to be. And here I get Mentor, which I think is like sufficient to play into, even through days, just because of the dudes that I'm gonna get, and hope that my deck provides me with a chain of cards. So here they plow, I force, they force, and I'm gonna Pyroblast. And so here it's just a matter of whether I wanna ensure, because this force is on this Force of Will. So this Pyroblast can be like, I'm Pyroblasting Tamiyo, and then I ensure that there are 2 things going on. They could still double days, which would be pretty catastrophic, but that happens anyway. And so I have to decide if I want to try to keep my Mentor alive, or if I want to get rid of this Tamiyo. And I think actually here I should just go to kill the Tamiyo, because I get 3 monks for this. So if I get rid of the Tamiyo, I don't necessarily need this Mentor anymore. Alas, I fight for the Mentor. My opponent dazes the Pending, I believe. Yeah, they daze the Pending, and so we end up with a board where the Tamiyo is here and I have my Mentors. I think if I'm my opponent, I am getting Plow, killing the Mentor. But they decide to just plus, brainstorm away some stuff, and surveil. And here I don't draw a non-creature, which is sadness. I drop another Mentor in case my opponent just does another one. Maybe I should have kept it, because if they draw land into Wrath of the Skies, I'm pretty dead. But they don't, and so here I just start the chain after getting Ponder into another Ponder. So just more prowess, more triggers. I don't want any of those cards, actually. And so here I just go all in on the Tamiyo. I'm not playing any games, because that's basically all they have going on. So I don't really care. Stoneforge Mystic for Batterskull, which is alright. And then here I just drop for Theolingas, and I know one of their cards is Batterskull, so I'm just jamming for X equals 3, just in case there's a daze. Sorry, X equals 2. I could be doing X equals 1, because honestly, with this much prowess, I'm hitting them for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I have 9 creatures. So this for Theolingas is worth 9 damage. So 9 plus 4, that's 13, plus 1 is 20, 1 block, 1 plow. So yeah, I could just be playing it for 2, and then play around, what's his name? Flusterstorm or Spell Pierce. I still think it doesn't really matter, but yeah, just better to play that way. Alright, so we are against Sneak&Show here, on the draw. And this is a match that doesn't really make much sense. I have to scoop game 2 because I have to leave for a family issue. And so, yeah, my opponent just has pretty good things. I'm not doing anything more than holding. And here they just drop a sneak attack on me, where I try to spike a Force of Will. I don't. My opponent drops an Embercool, which is not really that, it's annoying, obviously, but realistically, it's just okay. I can rebuild from here if they have nothing. With a stock up, it's almost impossible. They have nothing, and another Embercool just sends me to the realm. Just for the sideboard, the humilities are coming in, as are the Pyroblast and the Hydroblast, and we're just cutting like missteps and wraths and stuff like that. Prismatic Ending I keep because I saw a drop, so I'm expecting Carpet of Flowers, and so I have to keep one of those in. But yeah, this I'm just gonna scoop because of family stuff, and so we're gonna go to the next match. And this one, my opponent, I knew from a friend of mine that was also streaming with me that they were playing Eldrazi, and so I keep a hand that is okay against it. I'm planning to force pitch the Fairy if they play something big, so that I can go Tamiyo into flow state. And so here, my opponent goes all in on these Thought-Knots here, and so I force pitch the Fairy. The Fairy is just the farthest away, and it's not going to be that useful. Or it's not necessarily going to exist because I have a Tundra. So yeah, I just go Tamiyo and start to play that game. Ponder so that my flow state is up, and also so that I can flip this Tamiyo as soon as possible. Because I wanna probably just go flow state, revive flow state at some point. Opponent wastes me and plays Fleshraker, which is scary, but we'll see where we get from here. Flow state gets me Plow, and I think I'm gonna get another Alluren just so that I have more lands coming. Plus on the Tamiyo and move on. Oh, I got another Tamiyo. I guess I was thinking of like blocking. I don't know if I like that. I guess it's possible. I don't know if this Tamiyo is gonna survive just because of Line Breaker here. It just kills the Tamiyo, I believe. It would be 1. So 4 Eldrazi plus 3 damage. So yeah, that's enough to kill. So opponent plays on Fleshraker attacks and nothing else. And so here I'm just happy to just start killing these Fleshrakers. Trading my Tamiyo for resources because I don't think that this Tamiyo is alive. I also know that my opponent is playing the Bombardiers version, so there's just no way that this Tamiyo survives. Opponent chalices without paying the mana, which is, you know, a mistake, and they scoop here, but because I had the Wrath of the Skies still, I think I even sacrificed the clue so I could just go Wrath for 0, play Tamiyo, hold up minor misstep plus of the Tamiyo, and I have another force, like another Plow or another flow state coming, so it's fine. So here, we're just going to play more to the board. Ruination, Consigns, and the Mentor. I'm cutting 1-drops. And so, yeah. Two missteps because they don't do anything in this matchup. And a couple more ones. I cut a Force of Negation just because I'm like, I don't have that many ones now. I'm at like, what, 13 that can get counter. Consign to Memory can still be played with Replicate. And so everything else, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Opponent molds to 5, and I don't keep this hand because I don't see how I'm alive, so just move on. This hand is better. I'm just gonna put back, I think, the Tundra and just hope that I get it. It's possible that the Fairy is the cut here, and I just have 3 lands. Opponent's wasteland nothing, so I'm very happy with that. Here I don't force this, obviously, because I have the Plow. I have other things to force. I also haven't seen this opponent play Cavern of Souls in a couple games, and so I'm fine with just keeping. Briefly consider flow state here, but I think that I will need to recoup because I have 2 forces in my hand, so that's already -2 cards. Eventually, I need to draw a sorcery, and I think I can play from there. Line Breaker that I'm just gonna force, and I force because I think that Consign might be more necessary if I end up dropping like a what's his name, a Back to Basics to stop the Wasescape. So even though it's more mana efficient to do it this way, I think that I still want to keep Consign up. And I draw the aforementioned Back to Basics. I don't have anything going on, so at this point I'm flow stating for a land, which I don't hit. I'm just trying to get Brainstorm going then. Opponent Bombardiers, and here I am pitching the Brainstorm just so that I have Consign, and Consign here is just so that I can stop the Thought Knots here. Again, I really want this Back to Basics to stick, but I also need to try and time it where the Abundant Countryside is tapped, if possible. Draw Snapcaster, nothing's going on, and so I pass. My opponent has enough to search with Desire of Vugen, so I assume that's what they're gonna do. Land pass, and here I'm not playing back to Basics because I think that I can both play it and my opponent just taps out for a K command, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would definitely be annoying. And also because this Abundant Countryside can have they haven't played this card in their hand, so I think it might be just a Wasescape. They can also just, let's say I play Back to Basics right now, they can tap the Ancient Tombs and the Wasteland for the Wasescape. And if they have another land, then they can just Wasescape for the whole thing. So, yeah. So here, Thought Knots here, I just consign it. Opponent attack for the Bombardiers and attacks. And now they're at 6. So I'm also thinking at some point here, I'm just thinking, do I just play Snapcaster tap and just attack and put them to 4? But decide against it. I'm just gonna drop this Back to Basics since I got the color mana, which is the only thing that I wanted to do. And now it's just a very small race for my opponent because they are very low on cards, very low on life, And if they want to play a spell, it's going to cost them a lot. A Snapcaster Mage covers me from most stuff here. I think I'm just going to keep this floated because it's enabled, and I saw 2 cards that I like, even with Force of Will. Vista basically just unlocks me from being behind in lands for the majority of the game. Vista, which I tap here for Prismatic Ending, I think it was fine for me to just keep it untapped and use the Prismatic Vista for the mountain. And so I would have 2 mana up instead of having to tap this Volk forever. So yeah, Brainstorm for cards, get a land and shuffle. And from here, it's just about finalizing. I'm being probably too cautious with this Snapcaster because I should just slam it and play. My opponent can commands for 2, and I force just to get them out there. I think my opponent is gonna dismember this time here. Yeah. So at the dismember step, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to now it's just done. My opponent has no lands in play basically, and no matter what they do here, I'm just gonna snap for Prisma for what's his name, for Consign, just in case there's something that I'm not thinking about. But yeah, it's nothing else, and so my opponent is dead. And so we're 4-2. We get in there by the minimum. Yeah, so just to be how close to it is. The 9th person has the same breakers as I do, and my game win is just enough to get there. So we are tied on the top 2. And I play against Oops. At this point, I have to start juggling back and forth from my family needing me for stuff and finishing the game. Opponent is gonna mulligan to 5. I'm keeping this because there's a Force of Negation, and that's it. Opponent just slams it to the wall. It's like triple Spirit Guide into Balustrade Spite, so I don't have anything. And the opponent, I'm just going to see what's on their deck. Again, I'm playing very slow because I'm going back and forth. And so here I just see that they have two therapies, so it's enough to just kill with 0 cards in hand. All of the graveyard is available, and so it's over, and we scoop. So in come all of the graveyard hate and things like that. For Silence, New Rod, Humility sometimes can get them, but if you get to turn 4, obviously it's just like so spectacular. I still like having 1 just in case as insurance, because sometimes they try to push multiple times, and you want more of a permanent solution for the end. On the play, this is fine. Again, you can't really just mull for anything. And here I'm like, okay, I have a concern for the first thing, ponder for stuff. The fairy can get me there and also invalidate a lot of their plays. And so yeah, I'm just gonna continue again. As I'm saying, like I'm running a lot of the clock. I'm burning a lot of clock because I'm out. Here I don't want to waste my consign on the pedals, and so Balustrade Spike comes in. I consign it, they keep it. Brainstorm for things. I have a misstep if they try to go again with like Dark Ritual and stuff like that. Play a land and attack, and here I'm just happy to draw go here. Yep. Here eventually, I think I'm just gonna shuffle. Yep, and just want to wait 1 more turn so that I have enough for my ponder. And from here, I have Force of Negation, Misstep, and Surgical. So I'm happy to just bounce it and stave off the pressure, because anything they try to get here to drop it again, I have most of the things covered. Surgical cannot be responded to either. So yeah, and here. I take a look at their graveyard, and I see that they have both a Pact, which is useless with the fairy in the board, and they also have Memory's Journey and Dread Return in their hand, which means that realistically, if I just Surgical the Thassa's Oracle here, I just win. But because I know they have two therapies and they have to therapy themselves with 1, I can go. I can wait for the therapy to happen. Counter the other therapy with Minor Misstep, and then with the therapy that they have put in the graveyard with Cabal Therapy, I just Force of Negation. Like realistically here I should just Surgical the Thassa's Oracle and move on with life, because they have no way to fight it. But yeah, whatever. I get rid of the Narcomoebas just to confirm what is in my opponent's hand, and the opponent is gonna try to win from here, but we both know that it's impossible. So Cabal Therapy them, so they get the Dread Return in the graveyard, which I don't care about. The last therapy comes to me so that they can clear the Force, but I know that in game 1 they named Force of Negation instead of Force of Will because I couldn't counter the first one. And so here I'm just gonna Minor Misstep it. Okay, this is mostly flexing. I should have just gone for the Thoracle. And finally, last card is Dread Return, which I'm Force of Negation, and that's it. And here, I thought I was on the play, so I keep this hand, which is not unjustifiable on the play. Sorry, on the draw, but definitely sketch. I would keep a 6 like this probably, or a 5. But a 7, I think I can just go, especially when I see my opponent has already mulled. But yeah, my opponent moves to 5 and keeps an all-in hand, and because I don't have a defense, it went through and they kicked me out of top 8. So still a pretty strange challenge, but a interesting one to nevertheless. I think we were the only deck playing Secrets of Strixhaven's cards in the top 8. Flow State and Prismari Charm. They have both been pretty good. I think if I play this deck again, I'm playing Meticulous Archive over an island and maybe something else as well. But overall, pretty interesting to see how the deck plays now that we have Flow State. And just wanted to put together like a quick video on it because of that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all next week.